It wasn't until I reached the age of 82 that I finally understood. The lifetime of mutual love that was my greatest pride was actually my husband's lifelong regret. On my deathbed, he entered my dream.
Marrying, you meant losing my beloved forever. May we never meet again in the next life.
The bullet comment said that my husband actually loved my elder sister by the first wife, and both of them died with deep regret, while I was the only fool who lived a blissfully ignorant life. Opening my eyes once more, I returned to the day I first met Wen Huaiyu. In my past life, I fell into the water and was rescued by Wen Huaiyu. As he stood on the shore, soaking wet, there was no fear of almost drowning in my mind. I had only one thought: this young master is incredibly handsome because he rescued me in broad daylight. There was physical contact between Wen Huaiyu and me. To protect my reputation, the Zhu and Wen families agreed to a marriage alliance. The Wen Manor, in the capital, was an illustrious family of 100 years, with their students and former subordinates filling the imperial court. Even the current Empress Dowager had to address the old matriarch of the Wen family as aunt. My life after marrying Wen Huaiyu felt as sweet as if I had fallen into a jar of honey every single day. Wen Huaiyu was a man of few words, but he would always greet me whenever he left early and returned late. When I got greedy and overate, causing bloating, even though he was cold and aloof, he would still quietly massage my belly at night. During festivals and holidays, everything in the household was perfectly arranged, never requiring me to worry about a thing. I praised my husband to everyone I met, and my close friends envied my good fortune. I thought so too. My only regret was that Wen Huaiyu passed away too early, dying in his 30s, without leaving any last words. Surrounded by gold, silver, and treasures, I remained a widow for over 50 years. I lived to the age of 82, blessed with many children and grandchildren, and passed away peacefully. Right before my death, Wen Huaiyu appeared in my dream. Dressed in a cold white robe, he stood still under the moonlight. His features were handsome. Tears streamed down my face.
Husband, why have you never once visited me in my dreams?
Wen Huaiyu's expression remained flat.
You don't dream at all. How was I supposed to visit your dreams? So I could only wait for you foolishly at the Naihe Bridge for over 50 years. It was only when you were on your deathbed that I could finally enter your dream.
I was deeply moved. Excitedly, I wanted to throw myself into his arms and hug him.
Husband, you really do love me after all.
He took a step back, avoiding my embrace.
I only entered your dream to tell you this. Marrying you in this life made me lose my true love and live with regret for the rest of my life. I wish you well and hope you and I never meet again in the next life.
With those words, he turned and walked away. I stood there frozen in place. Rows of small text began to pop up in front of me. Just who is so carefree that they don't even dream in their sleep. The male lead wanted to enter her dream, but couldn't even find a way in. The peak of dense characters. The male lead was so miserable that he died young at 30, beyond words. Yet she lived happily until 82, beyond words. Is this even fair? Ridiculous. The male lead is also pretty outrageous. Just to say never meet again. He waited by the Naihe Bridge for over 50 years. I can understand the male lead's thoughts. He just wanted to bid the female supporting character a final goodbye. Actually, the male lead was angered to death by the female supporting character. He was originally holding on to his last breath, wanting to divorce her, but then she wailed loudly, crying out with deep affection, "In life we share a bed, in death we share a grave. Let's continue our romance in the next life." The male lead gasped his last breath and died right then and there. He didn't even have time to say his final words. Look at how things turned out. So I was the only one who enjoyed all the blessings and good fortune. When I opened my eyes again, before me was a rushing river. When I was pulled out of the river by someone, I coughed up several mouthfuls of water. A dark crowd of people gathered around me. Someone was shouting,
"Ah, she is alive. She is alive."
It is all thanks to young Master Wen's brave rescue.
Dizzily, I raised my head and saw a familiar face. Wen Huaiyu, the teenage Wen Huaiyu. He was soaked from head to toe, with his dark hair clinging to his ears, staring down at me. I looked at him intently. His face was still as handsome as ever, with delicate features and slightly pale lips. He looked like someone who had stepped right out of a painting.
Miss,
He took a step back, his voice cold.
please show some self-respect.
I blinked. The bullet comments erupted again. The supporting female lead has restarted. Why couldn't she restart earlier? Why did she have to choose this exact moment? To choose this moment, the male lead has saved her again, and they had physical contact again. Please, female lead, don't pester him this time, okay? Let him find his true love, okay? Have some pity on him. I stood up and wrung the water from my sleeves. My thoughts were a tangled mess. One moment it was the bullet comments, and the next, it was what Wen Huaiyu had told me in my dream in our past life.
Marrying you in this life cost me my true love.
So living with me, was that agonizing for him? Then why didn't he say so earlier? He kept quiet like a mute, never saying a word. Who could have guessed? I wasn't entirely heartless either. Since I had already enjoyed a lifetime of a blissful marriage, I would let him have his way this time. Seeing that I was fine, Wen Huaiyu turned around, planning to leave. I grabbed the corner of his robe. He stopped and turned to look at me, his gaze cold and distant, exactly the same as in our past life.
Miss,
He said in a low voice.
men and women should not touch each other.
I let go of my hand. You've also returned to this life, haven't you? Since you didn't want to see me again, why did you bother to pull me out of the water? His expression faltered for a second, but he instantly regained his composure.
I simply didn't want to be husband and wife with you again. I never intended to just watch you die.
I stood up and bowed to him with hands clasped, offering a sincere smile. My thanks to you, young master, for saving my life. Rest assured, in this lifetime, I will absolutely not marry you. With that, I turned around and walked away. Oh, she just took off like that without throwing herself at him. This is highly unusual, completely and utterly bizarre. The male lead is totally dumbfounded too. Haha. I walked forward, keeping my pace. Whoever wants to marry him in this life can go ahead. It is not as if the Wen family is the only path to a good life in this world. I can definitely find someone even better. My father is a reader at the Hanlin Academy. In a place like the capital, his rank of 5th class makes him just one of many mid-level officials everywhere. My mother is his second wife, and my eldest sister is 2 years older than me. She is the child left behind by my father's first wife. The bullet comments say Wen Huaiyu's true love is the eldest sister. I wasn't surprised at all. After all, I loved her dearly too. After returning home, I took a hot bath and drank 2 bowls of hot ginger tea. I had just wrapped myself in a quilt and lay down when my eldest sister came to see me. She was 17 years old, exquisitely beautiful, with a pair of bright, almond-shaped eyes that made her instantly endearing. I stared at her face, studying her for a long time. My staring made my sister quite uncomfortable.
Sister, I heard you fell into the water today. Are you all right?
I smiled. I'm fine. I'll be as good as new after a night's sleep. In our past life, after I married into the Wen estate, my sister came to visit me a few times. Every single time, Wen Huaiyu was present. He looked at me with a cold face, and he looked at my sister with a cold face as well. I even advised him not to welcome guests with such a gloomy expression. You are too cold. I know you like to play the brooding type, and aren't targeting anyone on purpose. But eldest sister doesn't know that. After saying that, I pinched his cheeks and pulled them outward. Smile a bit. Be more generous. After being pinched, Wen Huaiyu looked like he was about to suffocate. Thinking about it now, he probably just didn't want others to see through him. He was targeting you on purpose. He only hated that he couldn't have the one he wanted. The male lead really wasted his cold attitude on a blind person. How tragic. The male lead put on so many dramatic inner monologues, while the supporting female lead was still acting so clueless. In the past life, eldest sister visited the supporting female lead at the Wen Manor twice. Seeing that her younger sister was doing well, she felt at pieces and married far away to a foreign land. She never returned to the capital again. I don't believe for a second that she married so far away for any reason other than her sister. Fortunately, the male and female leads had high moral standards. Their love was kept strictly within the bounds of propriety. They absolutely never did anything to betray the supporting female lead. Yes. That is exactly why I ship the male and female leads. The fact that they couldn't be together makes it even more heartbreaking and lovable. After eldest sister left, my maid Bitao grumbled at the side.
Miss, you were far too careless. How could you fall into the river for no reason?
Stop it. I closed my eyes. And Bitao shut her mouth. Just as I was drifting off to sleep, I heard someone talking outside the room.
The Wen family sent an invitation saying they will come to visit the young lady tomorrow.
They are probably coming to discuss how to quiet down the gossip. In front of everyone today, young Master Wen held the young lady.
It will still affect the young lady's reputation to some extent.
Bitao kept her voice extremely low.
The young lady is asleep. Should we wake her up?
I turned over and pulled the quilt over my head. In my past life, after Wen Huaiyu rescued me, he also sent a visitor's card the next day. I was too excited to sleep all night, tossing and turning, worrying about which dress to wear when receiving him. Only later did I find out that he only wanted to see my eldest sister. The next day, I didn't go to see the guests. Not only did I not go, but I had also spoken to my father early on, resolutely refusing to marry young Master Wen. He only saved me because he had no choice. We couldn't return his kindness with ingratitude and cling to him. What if he already has someone he likes? Ruining someone's marriage prospects will bring bad karma. My father was pestered by me until he had no choice but to agree with me.
Fine. You don't have to marry young Master Wen. You can marry whoever you want. I'll have your mother take her time to choose for you.
After getting everything sorted out, I fell asleep peacefully. I slept until I woke up 2 days later. As soon as I opened my eyes, Bitao rushed over with red and swollen eyes.
Miss, you're finally awake. You've been asleep for 2 days with a high fever. If young Master Wen hadn't brought the imperial physician, who knows when your fever would have broken.
My head felt groggy. Young Master Wen. Bitao nodded.
Yes, young Master Wen heard you were sick, and specially brought an old imperial physician.
She smiled and said,
He really worries about you. He is still waiting outside right now. Do you want to see him, miss?
I waved my arms frantically, as if avoiding the plague. No, no. At this moment, a cool voice came from outside the courtyard.
Miss Zhu, I sought medical help and medicine for you, yet you refuse to even meet and thank me. Is this how you show your manners?
What on earth is Wen Huaiyu up to? I shouted through the door, but even if you hadn't brought the physician, I wouldn't have died. In my previous life, I lived to the age of 82. The courtyard immediately fell dead silent. 82. That is quite a long life. Ha 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 ha. The male lead was so mad he ran off. In her past life, the female supporting character never knew when she angered the male lead. The male lead could only leave in a huff. He is already used to it. Is she playing hard to get? Please, she needs to stop flattering herself. The male lead actually just wants to make his presence felt in front of the female lead. Trying to get close, Bitao asked curiously.
Miss, how do you know you lived to 82 in your past life?
I answered her. You didn't do so badly yourself. You lived to 80. Bitao was instantly lost in the joy of longevity. The imperial physician hadn't left yet, so I had him check the pulses of both my father and mother to ensure their health. Afterward, I hurriedly dragged him over to my elder sister's courtyard. My sister looked completely bewildered.
Sister, my health is perfectly fine. Even if it is, let him check.
Father and mother both had theirs checked. It is hard for our family to get an imperial physician. Let's not let it go to waste. The old imperial physician finally caught up with me, panting for breath. Hearing this, his face turned a bit green, but I paid no attention. The old physician checked her pulse and pondered.
The eldest miss has a slight deficiency of qi and blood, and she seems to have too much on her mind on a regular basis.
My sister's face flushed slightly.
I merely enjoy reading some miscellaneous books, and I just go to bed a bit late at night.
The old physician wrote a prescription, and Bitao went to fetch the medicine. I urged my sister, staying up late to read ruins your health. You can't do that anymore. Go to sleep as soon as it gets dark. My sister reached out and poked my forehead.
You're lazy and love to sleep yourself, yet you insist on dragging me into it.
Only by staying healthy, sister, can you grow old together with your beloved. My sister blushed with embarrassment.
Don't talk nonsense.
I held my sister's hand. Who is sister's beloved? Can't you tell me? My sister said hesitantly.
I will tell you later.
Fine, but I actually already know even if you don't tell me. For the next period of time, Wen Huaiyu kept running to my house every few days. He even became close friends with my father despite their age difference. He followed etiquette flawlessly. One day he would send precious jewelry. The next day a few rolls of silk. And the day after that 2 baskets of lychees from the south. He always prepared 2 portions of everything, sending them to the eldest daughter and the second daughter respectively. I stared at those things, falling into deep thought. What does this mean? What if my elder sister misunderstands? But before my sister could misunderstand, Bitao got the wrong idea first. She winked at me and said,
Miss, I reckon young Master Wen has taken a liking to you.
Within a few days, even my father got the wrong idea.
Young Master Wen couldn't possibly have his eyes on you, could he?
I was a bit close to breaking down. Why wasn't he taking a liking to you? Father touched his own old face, looking panicked.
That can't be, right?
I blocked Wen Huaiyu on the winding corridor in the back garden. He was wearing a moon-white robe with a dark green sash, which made him look extraordinarily refined and elegant. Seeing me blocking his way, his expression was cold, and his brow was furrowed.
Has Miss Zhu finally figured it out and come to thank me?
His tone was somewhat sarcastic, but I didn't quite catch his meaning, and said straight to the point, don't come here anymore. Wen Huaiyu's eyes shook for a moment. He looked at me in disbelief, then turned his body slightly, and said somewhat stiffly,
I came to discuss academics with Lord Zhu. What does that have to do with you?
Are you putting on an act again? Would you literally die if you didn't act? I was a bit annoyed. I know the one you love is my elder sister. If you want to see her, just come openly. You can also send gifts completely openly. Why bother using me as a shield? Hiding your true motives like this only invites misunderstandings. The tips of Wen Huaiyu's ears turned slightly red.
Who misunderstood?
Is that even the point? You can't even pursue your beloved properly. No wonder you got yourself killed at 30 in my past life, and the bullet comments actually blame me. Is that fair? I called out, Bitao, prepare some brush, ink, paper, and inkstone, and hand them to Master Wen to write. He looked dazed.
Write what?
I was already getting a bit impatient. A love poem, hurry up. Once you're done writing, I'll deliver it to my eldest sister for you. Ah, I really am such a good person. Who would have thought Wen Huaiyu would be so ungrateful? darkening his face.
Passing letters in private. How improper.
Having said that, he flung his sleeves and walked away. I'm speechless. Why is the female supporting character meddling in the young couple's business? The tension and push and pull are exactly what makes it good. The female supporting character is such a party pooper. The male lead learned his lesson from marrying in a rush in his past life, so he wants to slowly get closer to the female lead. She is just getting anxious over nothing. The emperor isn't worried, but his eunuchs are dying of anxiety. So much for my good intentions. Ungrateful fools. I turned around and went to the main courtyard to find my mother. Mother, how is the selection for my future husband going? My mother gave a cold, mocking laugh.
With those requirements you gave me, you can forget about getting married in this lifetime. You might as well go to a temple and become a nun.
I buried my head in shame. Having enjoyed a lifetime of wonderful luxury in my past life, having enjoyed a wonderful divine life in my previous lifetime, I had been raised to be extremely picky. In this life, there was no way I was going to settle. But despite her mockery, my mother still took me to meet a bunch of young masters. Not a single one caught my eye. In the end, she brought over a portrait, Lu Zhi, the Marquis of Zhenbei.
He is handsome, wealthy, and highly favored by the emperor. Every single point matches your requirements. Whether you can win him over depends on your own ability.
Lu Zhi, what a coincidence. I actually do know him. In my past life, his adopted son married my daughter. We were in-laws. Young Master Wen has invited eldest sister to look at the lanterns tonight. Eldest sister wants to drag me along. Wen Huaiyu stood to the side, hands behind his back, his expression cold and indifferent. I was socially savvy enough to read the room. I covered my mouth and let out a yawn. I'm not going. I'm exhausted and need to rest. I was just fooling them. As soon as they left, I immediately slipped out of the manor as well. At the private room in the tea house, Lu Zhi had arrived half an incense burn earlier than me. He stood by the window, dressed in black ceremonial robes, with a gold-threaded python-patterned belt cinching his waist. His shoulders were broad, and he stood straight as a pine. Hearing the sound, he looked up at me. The moment his gaze locked onto my face, his narrow phoenix-like eyes seemed to light up as if illuminated by something.
Second Miss Zhu.
In-law. Bah, no. I quickly corrected myself. Marquis Lu. The first time I saw Lu Zhi in my past life, he had brought his adopted son to our home to propose to my daughter. He was towering and robust, brimming with heroic spirit. I had whispered to my daughter, "Your future father-in-law is incredibly handsome." My daughter understood my underlying meaning.
Mother, once I marry into his family, I'll test the waters for you.
After that, Marquis Lu and I did indeed end up together in a secret affair. It was all because Wen Huaiyu had passed away too early, leaving me a widow in the prime of my youth. Raising several children on my own was incredibly difficult. Besides, I had burned incense to inform the underworld about this. Wen Huaiyu, if you object to this, then come into my dream tonight. Since he never showed up, I took it as his consent. I went to Lu Zhi in high spirits. That dead man of mine gave his permission. Even though Lu Zhi had long since reached the age of being a father-in-law, he was still a green and clumsy fool. Even when kissing, he was all flustered, terribly afraid of hurting me. Our builds were so different in size, so he would restrain himself with all his might, giving me nothing but pure comfort. Before, I spent the rest of my life with Lu Zhi, yet he still couldn't outlive me, passing away before I turned 70. His greatest regret before he died was that he couldn't marry me. At his most frantic moment, he even thought about kicking his adopted son out of the family tree and marrying me instead. But wouldn't that just be screwing over my daughter? I took a whip and gave him a fierce thrashing on the bed before he finally quieted down. Seeing me staring at him in a daze, Lu Zhi cleared his throat dryly and asked, "What are you looking at, Miss Zhu?" "Looking at you, you're so handsome." Lu Zhi's hand trembled, nearly dropping his teacup. His earlobes turned completely red, visible to the naked eye.
You are the more beautiful one, Miss Zhu.
After we finished our tea, Lu Zhi invited me to go see the lanterns. The streets were bustling with people, and the colorful lanterns lit up the night like day. I was standing on my tiptoes to look at a rabbit lantern. I suddenly caught sight of two familiar silhouettes in my peripheral vision. It was Wen Huaiyu and my elder sister. The two of them happened to stop in front of a sugar painting stall, standing neither too close nor too far apart. Just at that moment, Wen Huaiyu looked up, about to glance in my direction. My mind instantly went blank with a buzz of panic. Instinctively, I dove straight into Lu Zhi's arms, hiding my face tightly against his chest, while clutching his collar with both hands, wishing I could hide my entire body inside his coat. Lu Zhi froze instantly, his heart beating fast like a pounding drum, his hand hovering over my back, unsure of whether he should rest it there. Wen Huaiyu's gaze swept over. He froze for a second. The back of the girl in the pink dress, nestled in the arms of that well-built man, looked somewhat familiar. He took a few more glances and involuntarily took a step toward the two of them. Just as he was about to get close, the eldest Miss Zhu asked in confusion from behind him, "Young Master Wen." Wen Huaiyu stopped in his tracks, let out a bitter smile with lowered eyes, turned around to return to the eldest Miss's side, and walked away with her. Like an ostrich, I was still hiding in Lu Zhi's arms.
Miss Zhu,
His voice was incredibly hoarse.
they have already left.
Only then did I slowly poke my head out to take a look, letting out a sigh of relief. Oh my god. That scared me to death. Then, I froze. Wait a minute. I didn't marry Wen Huaiyu in this lifetime. Why on earth was I hiding? The supporting female lead has lost her mind. She probably thought it was her past life, where running into the main wife with her little lover on her arm would naturally make her terrified of getting caught. But someone look at the Marquis. He is about to burst into flames from her teasing. Lu Zhi's deep voice came from above my head.
Miss Zhu,
His face was completely flushed, and his Adam's apple bobbed up and down several times.
I will go to your estate to propose marriage tomorrow.
I stammered. Is there such a rush?
Do you not want to take responsibility?
Lu Zhi's eyes grew red, staring at me with a resentful gaze, as pitiful as a stray dog on the street.
I have never been held by a girl before.
I let out a forced laugh and coaxed him. I'll take responsibility. I will definitely take responsibility. With a face full of smiles, Lu Zhi escorted me back home. I stumbled my way to find my eldest sister. Just as I ran into her courtyard, I saw her and an elegant young master kissing under the moonlight. And it wasn't Wen Huaiyu. I screamed. I yawned. My sister screamed. I yawned. Before we could even say anything, then came the sound of footsteps floating from behind. Wen Huayu's figure appeared at the entrance of my sister's courtyard, his gaze freezing as he stared over. In a moment of panic, I suddenly leaped to the side of the elegant young gentleman, grabbed his hand, and said with great boldness, "Let me introduce you. This is my husband-to-be." The moment the words left my mouth, a cold voice drifted over.
He is your betrothed. Then what am I?
To my surprise, Lu Zhi had also followed me, with my left arm linking the elegant gentleman, and my right wrist gripped tightly by Lu Zhi, and right in front of us stood a grim-faced Wen Huaiyu. My eldest sister had shrunk far back into the background. Oh ho ho. What kind of crazy love triangle is this? The supporting actress is such a great pal. I originally just wanted to help my eldest sister by creating a diversion, but I ended up digging a grave for myself instead. This is an absolute mess. Everyone should just disperse quickly. I'm dizzy too. What on earth is going on? Didn't the female lead fall for the male lead? How could she have a change of heart? Lu Zhi and Wen Huaiyu asked in unison.
Who is he?
I turned my head to look. The elegant gentleman was also looking back at me. Our eyes locked in mutual bewilderment. What was your name again? The elegant gentleman's face twitched slightly.
I am Shen, the son of the Vice Minister of Rights.
He is young Master Shen, my betrothed. Lu Zhi's grip on my hand suddenly tightened.
I wish you well.
He stared at me with immense grief, as if I were some kind of heartless scoundrel playing with his feelings.
Say that one more time.
Only then did I realize things had gone terribly wrong. I quickly shook off Shendu's hand and turned to placate Lu Zhi. Don't panic, don't panic. You are also my betrothed. Both of you are. Wen Huaiyu snorted coldly.
Zhu Qinghao, you certainly are ambitious.
I didn't know how to explain myself. What was done, so I might as well just give up trying to explain. I suddenly straightened my spine. Well, that is how things are. I'm tired, and I'm going home to sleep. Without caring about how everyone felt after I spoke, I left the crowd behind and slipped away. The next day, while I was sleeping soundly, Bitao shook me awake.
Miss, open your eyes quickly. Marquis Lu has come to the estate to propose. He even went out of his way to catch 2 wild geese.
Being dragged out of my warm bed by Bitao, I was completely filled with morning crankiness. Couldn't he have come a bit later, ruining my good dream? Just as I finished washing up, my eldest sister pushed open the door and entered the room. She was wearing a light yellow outer robe, her face slightly flushed.
Little sister, I have something to tell you.
Eldest sister sat down, took the tea, and took a sip.
Actually, last night during the Lantern Festival, I already made things clear with young Master Wen. After spending time together these past days, we felt we weren't right for each other.
Eldest sister looked at me seriously.
We agreed to just be buddies. So last night, you took the blame for me in vain. Young Master Wen was definitely not there to catch a thief.
I opened my mouth, unable to say a word for a long time. She paused, then suddenly leaned in close to me.
Qinghao, didn't you ask me last time who my beloved was?
Eldest sister pulled a small booklet from her sleeve and placed it in front of me.
Here, see for yourself.
The words Capital's Handsome Men Collection burst into view. Following that, page after page was filled with names. Beneath each name was a clear evaluation. The third young master of Minister Wang's family from the Ministry of Rights. Handsome face, But unfortunately, he is a bit short. The second young master of Chief Lai's family, from the court of imperial sacrifices, 8 feet tall, but too long-winded when he speaks. Scholar Zhang from the Hanlin Academy, highly capable, but has bad breath. General Zhao, the guard commander, is heroic and handsome, but unfortunately, he is a widower. Flipping halfway through, I saw Wen Huaiyu's name. The note underneath read, Wen Huaiyu, the eldest young master of the Wen family. Delicate features, extraordinary eloquence. At first glance, he looks like a deity, but only after getting to know him did I realize his temperament is ice cold, and he is a man of few words. When trying to chat with him, he is always dazed and daydreaming, like playing a lute to a cow. Bad review, bad review, bad review. Beside his name, a thick red cross was drawn, which was highly eye-catching. Unbelievable. No wonder the last time the supporting female character asked the heroine who her crush was, the heroine didn't answer. This long string of names would take ages to count. An entire booklet of crushes. And Wen Huaiyu was just one of them. And he even got crossed out. My heart is so tired. I actually thought the heroine was a deeply devoted person, but she turns out to be a seasoned player. Looking at this booklet left me completely speechless.
I've embarrassed myself before you.
My eldest sister lowered her eyes in embarrassment.
I am a bit fickle.
Sister, what on earth are you embarrassed about? How is this just being a bit fickle? Just then, Bitao called out from outside the door again.
Miss Marquis Lu has already been waiting in the parlor. The master wants you to go receive the guest yourself.
My eldest sister urged me to go outside.
Go on, go on. Marquis Lu is a really good man. I have already evaluated his character for you.
Bewildered, I was shooed out of the room, my mind in complete disarray. Then why did my eldest sister die of grief in the previous life? She doesn't look sad at all. I stepped into the main hall. Lu Zhi was sitting on a chair, wearing a deep red robe, looking incredibly handsome. The room was filled with chests, and on the side table sat 2 flapping geese, their legs bound with red cloth. Seeing me enter, he stood up, his eyes shining as he stared at me.
Second miss, I've come to propose.
His voice was deep and powerful.
Excellent, excellent. Son-in-law, please have a seat.
The butler ran in to deliver a message.
Master, young Master Wen has arrived.
Wen Huaiyu walked into the room in high spirits. He was dressed in a white robe, with a black leather belt around his waist, looking as cold and elegant as jade. His first words upon entering were,
Master Zhu, I have come to propose to your second miss.
Dozens of chests were carried in, glittering brightly. The attendant behind him presented a long box. When opened, there was a scroll inside. On it was a young girl, wearing a light purple skirt, standing at a lantern festival, standing on her tiptoes to look at a rabbit lantern, her eyes curved like crescents, smiling radiantly. It was clearly a painting of me. In the corner, a line of small characters was written. My only true love in this lifetime is you. My father looked at Lu Zhi, then at Wen Huaiyu, his face full of conflict.
Oh dear. What should we do?
My mother, however, was delighted.
Let's draw straws.
I was not pleased. Can't you all listen to the opinion of the actual person involved? My mother became displeased too.
And what is your opinion?
I looked away from Wen Huaiyu's longing gaze, stepped forward, and took Lu Zhi's hand. I choose Lu Zhi. The living room fell dead silent for a second. My father couldn't bear to watch any longer. My mother froze, holding her cup midair. Lu Zhi gripped my hand tightly. His eyes sparkled with joy. He couldn't even hold back his smile.
The first day of next month is the most auspicious date of the year. Why don't we set our wedding for the first day of next month?
Lu Zhi is really something, taking this chance to pursue his wife. Why hasn't Wen Huaiyu left yet? Why is he still standing there? Maybe he is waiting for the supporting female lead. Take a look at him. I couldn't help but glance at Wen Huaiyu. He stood under the morning sun, his white robe as pure as snow, and even his lips looked pale. He stared at me blankly, his eyes filled with confusion and sorrow. Wen Huaiyu's voice trembled slightly.
Second miss, may I have a few words with you in private?
My mother pinched me from behind. She mouthed to me,
No matter what, he did give you a painting.
Wen Huaiyu was the top scholar who won first place in 3 consecutive imperial exams. His calligraphy and painting were matchless. In my past life, Wen Huaiyu had painted many portraits of me, but every single one was done only because I had begged him to. Having lived through 2 lifetimes, this was the very first time he had painted me of his own accord. Young Master Wen, you told me in our past life that you hoped we would never meet again in our next lives. I haven't forgotten. I did exactly as you wished. Let's just spare each other in this lifetime.
That was never my true intent.
He said, his voice deep.
I waited for you by the Naihe Bridge for over 50 years. I comforted myself by telling every ghost who asked why I was waiting that I was waiting to sever all ties with you. I was just putting up a front every single day. In truth, I was worried that after you passed away, you would be lonely and frightened on the road to the underworld. so I waited desperately. I waited desperately.
The male lead has finally spoken his mind. Stubborn as a mule. None of them have a good ending. Lu Zhi stepped sideways to shield me.
Young Master Wen, you didn't say all this at an earlier stage, but choose to bring it up now, just when proposals are being made. You really know how to pick your moment.
Wen Huaiyu looked toward him.
And at what point did you get to know her, Marquis?
In our past life,
Lu Zhi's expression remained unchanged.
Qinghao and I had a secret affair for over 20 years. She promised me the position of her official husband in this life.
My father was dumbfounded.
What do you mean by secret affair?
My mother tugged at him, signaling him to be quiet. Since the proposal matter could not be settled, my mother made the decision.
I only have one daughter, and she cannot be cut into two halves.
Please return to your manners first, and let her take her time to choose. Neither of the two men budged. My mother smiled cheerfully and said,
Do I need to have someone escort you out?
Lu Zhi was the first to let go. Stepping outside the door, he turned his head and mouthed to me, Wait for me. Wen Huaiyu stood frozen on the spot. He stared at me for a long time, then turned around and departed, his retreating figure looking desolate. Suddenly, my nose felt a bit prickled with tears. The female lead is feeling soft-hearted now. Don't. The Marquis is so wonderful. The devoted Marquis is so passionate. I really like him. And that height difference. Why can't she just keep them both? Why choose? My eldest sister took hold of my arm.
Qinghao, you absolutely must not let your heart soften. A fellow like Wen Huaiyu is fine as a friend, but as a husband he would bore you to death. I went to look at the lanterns with him and tried to banter with him 20 times, but he didn't smile even once. By comparison, my young master Shen is so much better.
My eldest sister's cheeks flushed red with embarrassment again.
He loves to smile and knows how to talk dirty. He said my eyes are like the bright moon, shining so brightly that he couldn't hide anything in his heart. And then he kissed me. He kissed me for a long time.
My expression remained flat. Sister, I'm not in the mood to hear about this. My eldest sister smiled warmly.
It doesn't matter if you're not interested. I just wanted to share it with you.
Over the next few days, Lu Zhi came to look for me every single day.
Qinghao, your dress looks absolutely beautiful today. Qinghao, I've been thinking of you. Ever since we parted last night, I haven't stopped missing you.
Wen Huaiyu came by as well. Bitao told me he stood under the old tree in the back alley every day, staying there for nearly an hour each time. His gaze was vacant, and he looked utterly lost in thought, as if he didn't know what he was searching for. I peeked at him over the wall for a second. The wind blew his long sleeves, making him look like a figure from a painting. Bitao said,
Miss, aren't you going to go and talk to him?
No, he hasn't come to look for me.
Miss, perhaps Master Wen doesn't want to remain silent, but simply doesn't know how to speak.
Late at night, Lu Zhi was perched on my courtyard wall, holding a half bottle of sweet osmanthus wine.
I couldn't sleep, so I came to have a few drinks with you.
I took the wine bottle from him. He leaned against my windowsill, the moonlight carving his sharp features.
Qinghao, are you hesitant?
I didn't say a word.
You don't have to rush to answer me. I am willing to wait. In our past life, I waited for over 20 years. Waiting a few more years in this life is nothing.
He paused for a moment.
Only one thing. You must never choose Wen Huaiyu out of pity. His misery is his own business, not your burden to bear. You get married to enjoy life, not to offer salvation to the world.
What magnanimity, Marquis. Now this is the kind of broad-mindedness a primary husband should have. Aren't you worried I'll choose him? Lu Zhi chuckled.
I am. But if you really do choose him, it only means I haven't done well enough, and that I'll just have to work even harder. If you fancy him, I'll just wait for him to draw his last breath. He passed away at 30 in our past life, and he probably won't live long in this one either. When that day comes, I will marry you.
I nearly spat my wine all over the floor. Early the next morning, Wen Huaiyu rushed over carrying a food basket. Inside were osmanthus cakes, all crooked and misshapen, and a few of them were even cracked.
I made them myself. I was figuring it out all night.
I took a bite. They taste fine, just a bit unsightly.
What do you like? I can practice making whatever it is. These past few days, I've finally figured things out. That we've ended up where we are today is entirely my fault. If you absolutely do not want to marry me, that is fine. But please don't ignore me. Just let me stay where I can see you.
The male lead can finally speak like a human being. I looked at his slightly red eyes. Wen Huaiyu. When I said in our past life that we would share a bed in life and a grave in death, and continue our relationship in the next life, I meant it. He snapped his head up. But you must take second place. Lu Zhi proposed to me before you did, and we settled on a betrothal gift early on. Everything should be on a first-come, first-served basis. The corners of Wen Huaiyu's mouth slowly curled up. Fine, if you are willing to do even this.
As long as I can be with you, any rank is fine.
Wow, the male lead actually agreed. Lu Zhi as the primary husband and Wen Huaiyu as the concubine. What kind of dream life is this for her? That brat is indeed incredibly lucky. My mother stepped out from behind the screen.
Good, then it is settled. Lu Zhi as the first husband and Wen Huaiyu as the second. Does anyone have any objections?
I have no objections. Young Master Wen, why don't you address me as first husband and let's hear how it sounds.
First husband.
My eldest sister gave me a big thumbs up.
Good job, little sister. You're a role model for us all.
Am I even allowed to have an objection?
My mother glanced at him half coldly and half warmly for a second. My father quickly shrank back. The wedding was scheduled for 3 months later. To show the magnanimity of the first husband, Lu Zhi personally caught 4 wild geese, saying it signified a double blessing. Wen Huaiyu ran over every day to take care of me, and his handcrafting of sweet pastries became increasingly skilled. Bi Dao asked me who I actually favored more. I pondered for a moment. Lu Zhi is like the blazing sun, warming one's entire body. Wen Huaiyu is like the bright moon, hanging there silently and peacefully, bringing absolute tranquility and comfort. The blazing sun and the bright moon. I love them both. I won't choose. I'll take them both. In the previous life, the female supporting character ended up single, suffering a steady stream of pain. In this life, 3 partners together, bringing absolute happiness. Congratulations on a perfect ending. On the day of the wedding, the sun shone brightly over the capital. Lu Zhi, dressed in a crimson wedding robe, came on horseback to escort the bride.
Qinghao,
He whispered softly.
for this half of my life, I have come to marry you.
During the ceremony, Wen Huaiyu stood among the relatives and friends. He watched me step by step approach Lu Zhi and watched me bow. His eyes were completely red, yet the corners of his mouth were turned up. In the evening, Lu Zhi drank a bit too much. Leaning against the couch, he pulled me into his arms.
Qinghao, could I be dreaming?
No.
Then let me pinch you. Will you dodge?
You, pinch yourself. He laughed. As the night grew quiet and still, and the moonlight stretched out long, I quietly let out a sigh. Lu Zhi looked down at me.
Missing him? Then go find him tomorrow. Anyway, he'll be marrying in the day after tomorrow.
I said teasingly. You're certainly open-minded about this.
What else can I be?
He pulled me closer and held me tight.
It is not like I can have you all to myself. In our past life, I was merely a concubine without status. In this life, I am fortunate to be your first husband. I am content.
The silver moonlight filtered through the window, casting a soft glow upon his face. His eyes were exceptionally bright, as if they held an entire galaxy. I leaned closer and pressed a kiss to his lips. Thank you, Lu Zhi.
Thank me for what?
Thank you for waiting for me for 2 lifetimes. He smiled, burying his face in my neck, his nose nudging against mine.
Not 2 lifetimes. It is 3 lifetimes. Our past life, this life, and the next. I want only you.
The first time Wen Huaiyu met Zhu Qinghao, it was at the dock in the city's outskirts. She had accidentally fallen into the water, struggling desperately in the river. He dove into the water and dragged her back to shore. She coughed up a few mouthfuls of water, dizzy and disoriented. The very first thing she said upon opening her eyes and seeing him was, "Young master, you are truly handsome." To make such a bold remark in broad daylight. In all his 18 years, he had never met a girl like her. At that time, he had no idea that this would be the beginning of all their destiny. On the day their marriage was settled, he stayed in his study. Before him lay a volume of essays, yet he could not make sense of a single word. His mind was in utter turmoil. He had once seen her at a literary gathering. The eldest Miss Zhu was indeed the capital's leading lady of talent. Gentle, elegant, sensible, and well-mannered. The very picture of a virtuous wife and mother. His mother always spoke of, but the one he had to marry was the second miss, the very one who had praised his good looks to his face at the dock. He had worried this marriage would be nothing but torment, yet Zhu Qinghao was like a blazing fire, unavoidably burning her way into his daily life. She was a chatterbox, talking endlessly from morning till night, rambling about how today's osmanthus cake was too sweet, how the crabapple blossoms in the courtyard had bloomed, and even about the scar she got from falling out of a tree as a child. He didn't even need to chime in. She could happily chat away for an entire hour all by herself. She was quite the glutton too. Once, she polished off 3 bowls at dinner and was too bloated to sleep at night, tossing and turning until she twisted the quilt into a giant knot. He tried his best to ignore it, but in the end, he still reached out and gently massaged her stomach. She purred with comfort, just like a cat having its first stroke. He thought to himself quite calmly, "What am I doing?" Yet his hand never stopped. She was extremely sensitive to the cold, constantly huddling toward his side of the bed in the dead of winter. He would move aside, and she would press closer. He moved again, and she followed again, until he was pressed against the wall with nowhere left to retreat.
Move over.
He said, "I'm cold." she replied with absolute confidence. He fell silent. Then, she went a step further and rested her cold feet right on his calves. He didn't say another word, nor did he pull away. What she didn't know was that he stayed awake until dawn that night, unable to sleep because his heart was pounding so wildly. He began to paint portraits of her. In the quiet depth of the night, he would remain alone in his study, and the lines from his brush would naturally shape into her face. The way she looked while napping on the desk, or standing on her tiptoes to reach for a picture book on the shelf, squatting by the pond, feeding the fish. Once finished, he would hide it away, never letting her see them. Back then, he still did not understand that this was love. Zhu Qinghao would occasionally force him to say sweet nothings, but he could never bring himself to speak them. The children of the Wen household were taught from a young age never to show their emotions. He couldn't say those soft, mushy words. The word affection was stuck in his throat, like a fishbone, impossible to cough out no matter what. She thought, he indeed does not care for me, and that was why he couldn't say it. In the cold winter of his 30th year, he caught a cold. It was not a grave illness. The physician said he only needed to rest in bed for a few days, but she couldn't let it go. She watched over his bed, never leaving for a moment, her eyes red from crying, mumbling to herself, "Nothing must happen to you. What would you do without me?" He looked at her, suddenly seized by a desperate urge to say,
"I will surely protect you for the rest of my life."
But the words reached his lips only to be swallowed back down. He thought he would tell her once he recovered, but his illness never did get better. On the evening of that day, a sharp, stabbing pain suddenly struck his chest. Everything went black before his eyes. Terrified, she dropped the entire medicine tray. She rushed over, clutching his hand tightly, sobbing uncontrollably. "Husband, husband, what is wrong? Do not scare me." He wanted to wipe away her tears, to tell her not to cry, but he could not make a sound. As his life ran its course, the sound of her bitter wailing drifted to his ears. "I wish to always be with you and remain your companion in the next life." For the sake of those words, he waited for her by the Naihe Bridge for over 50 years. He was not the only ghost at the bridge. A ghost asked curiously,
"Who are you waiting for?"
"For my beloved."
"How long have you been waiting?"
"Over 50 years.
"So you are a devoted lover. But does she know you are waiting for her?"
He fell silent. After a short moment he said,
"I am by no means a devoted lover. I only want to tell her that we are finished."
She never dreamed of him. He had tried many times, but he could never enter her dreams. He thought it didn't matter. He would just wait. She would eventually come. During those 50-odd years of waiting, he reflected on the events of his life over and over again. Finally, when she was on her deathbed, he entered her dream. He stood under the moonlight, watching her rush toward him with tearful eyes, his heart softening completely. But he stepped back, still adhering to his original plan, to make a clean break with her.
"Marrying you in this life made me lose my love and live with regret for half my life. I hope you and I never meet in the next life."
And then, he was reborn. He was reborn at the docks. When he pulled her out of the river, she told him that she would absolutely not marry him in this life. He should have been happy. That way, he could pursue the eldest Miss Zhu. But his heart ached terribly. Hearing that she was ill, he panicked and was at a complete loss. He sought out the imperial physician, guarding her courtyard day after day. Later, whenever he sent gifts to the eldest miss, he would always uncontrollably prepare a share for her as well. When he stopped him, no one knew how happy he was deep down. But when the words reached his lips, they turned into sarcastic remarks. Miss Zhu finally understood and came to express her gratitude. The moment the words left his mouth, he regretted it. But she didn't understand. She had never been able to understand the hidden meaning behind his words. Then, Lu Zhi showed up. That fellow dared to say the most shameless things.
"I adore you. I want to marry you. Your dress is so beautiful."
Every single word was what he wanted to say but couldn't bring himself to. Watching Lu Zhi go to propose, he completely panicked. He did the boldest thing of his life. To crash the proposal, he stopped in the main hall, his heart trembling inside. He thought for a moment, if I choose the upright path, she is right to choose Lu Zhi. That fellow can make her happy and make her laugh, whereas he could only remain silent. But then, she changed her mind again. She said, "When I said in my past life that we'd share a bed in life and a grave in death and continue our love in the next life, it was the truth. But you have to take second place. Lu Zhi came to propose before you, and we exchanged tokens of love early on. Everything must be on a first-come, first-served basis. Taking second place doesn't matter. As long as I can be right there in line, any spot is fine." On the night of their wedding, he cried, "Are you crying?" "No, I'm not. Your eyes are as red as a little rabbit is."
The light just dazzled my eyes.
"Wen Huaiyu, surely you weren't like this in your past life too. Clearly missing me to death, yet claiming you lost your true love." He didn't make a sound. She let out a sigh and ran her fingers through his hair. "You are truly a fool. He lowered his head, burying his face in the crook of her neck. He said,
Yes, I am very foolish.
She still carried that familiar scent all over her. He closed his eyes, suddenly feeling that being second in line wasn't so bad after all. At least in this lifetime. He finally managed to say those words.
I wish you well. My heart is yours.
I know that is the 8th time you've said it today.
I love you.
Wen Huaiyu, did you steal my osmanthus wine again? He didn't answer because he really had snuck a drink. If he hadn't, he still wouldn't have been able to say these words. But he wanted to take things slow.
It is all right. I will love you slowly, slowly draw closer to you, and slowly watch over you as we grow old.